Right. Welcome back to the Dad Task Force, episode 5 at this point, and a lot of new stuff. So I'm excited to put this into edit because right here we actually put our sponsor ad in for the audio in the video for when this launches next week. We're excited to announce our very first sponsor of the Dad Task Force, which is streamkits.com, where you go and get high-end audio-visual production equipment that's affordable and easy to use. If you're a streamer or a content creator, this is for you. You can go to Amazon, you can buy that camera, you can buy all those cables and the microphones and the stands and the tripods and the lights and the software. But you know what happens when you put all that together and it doesn't sync up real well and your file gets corrupted? You gotta refilm it. But with StreamKits, it all sets up and syncs together and you can go live right from your device, or you can just record it static and go take care of it in post. The choice is yours because it's integrated into itself. And with promo code TaskForce35, you get 35% off MSRP at checkout. If you want to create a cooking show, StreamKits for you. If you want to show people how to fix cars in your garage, StreamKits for you. It is so simple to get started, to get your vision, your goal, your dream, everything out there and going right now. You don't have to break the bank. And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, you've saved so much money with StreamKits and the Dad Task Force promo code of TaskForce35. You can reinvest that money that you saved into your dream, into your goal, into your company, into your brand. StreamKits.com with promo code TaskForce35. I text you yesterday or Monday, and I said, "Hey, what do we want to talk about this week?" And then I laughed. Your response was this: "How about when you and your spouse or your children's mom don't see eye to eye on something with the kids, like rules?"
Yeah.
All right. So,
yes, this all stemmed from like I have always been adamant about, like, even in the summer, kids got to get up, kids got to like have a routine every single day. And then I saw this video on Instagram that changed my mind about it. But my wife has never been of the school of like, in the summer, the kids got to get up. Like, she's like, let them sleep, let them do their thing.
Mhm.
And so it got me thinking, like, why did I care so much that they needed to like have that routine? Or like, why was I so like hard set on it in the first place?
Okay. So what was the video?
You know, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's like a football player. His brother's one of his other brothers in the league also. And then there's a third brother who also played, like, they all played big D1 football.
Okay.
And their dad, his name is John Brown. He was like a big bodybuilder back in the day.
Okay.
He's talking to, I think he's on, I don't remember which podcast he's on. He's on some podcast. And he's talking about, like, if your kids got to sleep, like, let them sleep. And then he maps like all the reasons that one, that people like started thinking like, oh, you got to like wake up at a certain time and like all this stuff. And then like the flip side of that and like why there's benefits. And so, like, you know, when my wife is making her argument, like, she's not bringing up all those points, but they're all valid points. Then none of them were like, oh my God, like,
Sure,
mind blowing. So it just kind of sent me on this thing of like, how many other things do you think are the same way?
Well, I feel like it needs its own like set episode, I guess, maybe a couple of them, but dating, sleepovers, punishment, discipline, things like that. Like, I think that based on how you grew up and how she grew up, or whatever the circumstances may be, really dictate your perspective. And so now we're in the conflict resolution. How are you resolving that conflict in a way that makes sense for your household.
Right.
Let's say your oldest says, hey, I want to go do this thing. What are your prerequisites? What do you need to know before that you even give a yes or no?
Oh, I got to know who's going to be there, where it is, how you're getting there, how long you're going to be there. Like, are their parents, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Is and your wife's on the same page?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's fast forward in 10 years. Your daughter's like, I want to go on a date with this boy. Do you and the missus agree?
It's a good question. We haven't, luckily, we're not at that stage yet and we haven't talked about it. But I think we would be on the same page of like, got to meet the kid first. I know we're not on the same page of like age of when they can start dating.
Okay. So let's start there. Age. How old do your kids have to be before you're comfortable with them dating?
30. No. I think they should be like 17, 18 years old before they can start dating.
Okay.
So.
And you said that that she disagrees with that?
Yeah, I think she thinks like a little bit younger because there's like innocence at younger age and like dating isn't what we think of when it comes to dating.
We have friends that like they're pretty much kind of in the same camp as you are, and maybe for the same reasons, maybe for different reasons. The idea that the purpose of dating is to find a partner, right?
Right.
And I don't agree with that ideology for the primary reason of kids have big, strong feelings, right? So post puberty into the early 20s, everything is a big feeling. That's why you have so much conviction and so much passion in college, in that college age, towards certain things that, like, the micro species of whales in this small sector of the ocean that's affected by this contaminant that's only produced in one country, but it's the biggest thing to them in the world, right?
Right.
Big feelings. I don't personally want my daughters or my son to not have experienced and walked through big feelings by the time that they're an adult. That's just my perspective, right? So
valid point.
I was not always that way. I was like, I don't really want my kids dating, but I think that if our approach has been a slow roll. There's not an age bracket. It's a maturity bracket. Where do you land mature? Are you mature enough to handle this? Can I trust you? And if the answer to those questions are yes and yes, then the option is there. Now, do you feel the same way about your boys?
I do, and it's funny because like the maturity aspect comes into it. Like me and my wife joke, I'm not going to say boy or girl. Like one of our kids, if I say boy or girl, it'll give it away. One of our kids were like, this is going to be the kid who's at the parties, jumping off the roof into the pool. Like we're going to need to keep an eye on this one for a while.
Sure.
And then my other kids are like super mature already, like always have been like ahead of their age. And so I have like never thought of it from a maturity standpoint. And I was always like 16, 17, 18. Yeah. Like that's when you're ready. Like not before that, not at all. But it is very likely that some of my kids are more mature before they're that age.
We went back. I think we had this talk last week when we were talking about fighting, and it was what your limit and threshold is not the same as theirs. So we're going to treat you the same, but differently based on where you are in development and in life. Right. So,
right.
So how do you separate your feelings on a matter versus your wife's?
Oh man, there's a lot of pride swallowing that goes into it, because sometimes you want your rule just so that your rule is in place. And so more recently, especially after this Instagram video, um, I've started to like ask myself, like, why is that important to me? Is that just true in my lens, or is it true in every case? Um, and then like, is there harm if that rule isn't in place?
Yeah,
I think so.
I think it's smart. My wife asks me all the time, do you truly feel that this is a rule? Did you think about it? And like, what led you to that decision? So she makes me think through things too. Like, yeah, I don't know. It just felt right in the moment.
Right.
So like one of the biggest issues with us was certain social media apps. Having the training and experiences that I've had professionally, I am pretty much against certain apps. And because she doesn't have those training and experiences, she doesn't have that same perspective.
Right.
And so it's if I put my foot down and I say this, I feel very convicted about this, she'll generally be like, I mean, if you feel that strongly about it, okay, cool.
Right.
If not, it might be a couple weeks of slow rolling going through it, but we walk through it in that capacity. Is there any just hard lines that you're like not budging and she's not budging? And so then you just have this thing left on the table.
There aren't any that I can think of right now. But to your statement, like, how do you make the distinction between like the exception and the rule? Like, I feel this way because I've seen these experiences. But how do you know that that's not the exception, or how do you know that it is the exception?
So it's a numbers game for me, right? So as an investigator, you investigate a lot of crimes and a lot of happenings. And when the commonality, the pattern, the trend, the thing keeps coming up, then that to me logically says that this plays a part.
Right.
Now, doesn't mean that my kid can't be the exception. So social media, this isn't the conversation for social media. However, it might be the next one. Who knows? But social media being one, if I allow you to have it, I'm going to also be logged in and monitor it. I tell parents all the time when we get out in front of them and we speak at conferences and stuff, look, just because you said no and you didn't let your kid have that app on their phone doesn't mean that they don't have a login, username, and password on their friend's device, because your values are for your house.
Right.
Jack and Diane down the street who have a kid your kid's age don't share your values and don't share your perspective. So they have allowances that you don't. Your kids know that. And so they will go over there and hang out with Jack and Diane's kid so that they can do the other things, or they'll just use that other account. It's this, we have to be intentional, and we have to get over the fact that just because I said no doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
Right.
The same is true with drugs and alcohol, sex, relationships. You can tell your daughter right now, you will not date until you're 17 or 18 years old. And then she's going to have this little boyfriend at school on the side. And, just
right.
It's not the real dating, but it's the in-between dating. And it happens in public school. It happens in private school. And the only place I hope it doesn't happen is homeschool. That'd be weird.
That'd be weird.
But we have to, like, we can't be so naive to think that our word is ironclad and it's in, like, there's no way to penetrate that.
Right.
Now going back to dating, the boy has to come. Like, how does that work in your guys', like, what are you thinking about?
So boys got to come. It doesn't have to be like Bad Boys scenario where like we're opening the door with like, trying to scare the crap out of the kid. But got to come. He's got to I'm going to see what kind of manners this kid has in the first place, because that's going to give you a good idea of like how they're going to treat your kid, and then I just want to like look the kid in the eye. I don't know, maybe just like the dad in me, I do want to like scare him a little bit. Not like, again, not as bad as Bad Boys 2, even though like that would be kind of cool.
It would be. I think, just real quick, as fathers, we want to assert dominance over those that are trying to peel our daughters out of our grasp, out of our safety net. So there's some components of that I agree with. But anyways,
yeah. And I think, that is maybe a conversation for another episode, where like the difference between somebody coming to take your son out or your son going to take somebody out versus somebody coming to take your daughter out on a date.
That was my next question. Do you expect your boys to bring home the girls so you get to meet the girl, to see her manners and her?
I would expect it. Yeah. But I also, like, I don't know, just being the person I am, I'm going to like talk to my boy about making sure he's not just like pulling up, texting this girl that he's outside and like he's going to the door and all that stuff. Like this kind of stuff I would expect for a boy to come do at my house. Okay. So
smart. How old were you when you started dating?
I had like that in between girlfriend when I was like 14. I had my first real girlfriend when I was 17.
Okay. And what about your bride?
She started dating, I think she was like 15, 16. So,
okay. So like similar, not similar. And did you have to do the whole dad thing? Like where you walked up and got
with my wife or with my first?
Yeah, with your first.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And oh my gosh, it was terrifying. But also like glad that my grandpa had that conversation with me beforehand.
Sure. Too. That makes sense. So. I transition a little bit. I didn't tell you this beforehand. So my wife sends me a lot of like, this is how you can help your platform grow. And so you start watching these different videos and these different like techniques and learning all of these algorithm things. I don't know if they work or not, but one of them was go into social media like Instagram, type in a keyword from your like target audience, like your niche. Then look at all of the reels or all of the videos that have more than 1 million views. Those are the ones that have gone viral, allegedly. And so I did that. I typed in the word dad. And then I went into Instagram and I went to reels and I looked at the highest performing reels, like 3 or 4 page swipes. Nothing of content or value. Most of it was dad jokes. Most of it was dads are idiots. Most of it was something completely unrelated. It just had a dad in it, so it had the word dad connected to it.
Right.
So but it made me really think about why we're doing this is because I think in this particular country, maybe globally, I'm not real sure globally. Frankly, I don't necessarily care. We have to, the position of father has become that of the financing buffoon. Uninvolved, unengaged, just completely oblivious to what's going on around them. As long as they go to work and pay the bills and keep the lights on, that's enough. And they get their silly white tennis shoes with their socks up to their knees, and they get to mow the grass on Saturday.
Right.
And it's just these super cliche like stereotypes that really bastardize the position of father. And it's a shame, but that is the actual cause and reason that we started this, is to change that narrative, because we've gone to this place in society where fathers are seen as idiots or unnecessary, or in some cases toxic. What we definitely see is ill-equipped children growing up ill-equipped for the world. Women, mothers, you are phenomenal nurturers. There is a great need to be nurtured, but there are things that the father does that you cannot do. And I think that's, you know what? I don't think that, I know that that's my goal for this program, the Dad Task Force, is to actually equip other men to be better equipped to be good fathers. And it doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter your ideological belief. It doesn't matter where you come from or what you've done. What matters is that you're investing in the thing that should matter the most,
Right.
the thing that you created. So that's just a soapbox tangent piece, but it's relevant to the situation because it gets irritating. You look at all these professionals online, and it's a bunch of moms and grandmas. Like, where are the men?
Right.
Like, it's disgusting to some degree, and it makes me want to bang my head against the wall, because it's not your responsibility to raise everybody else's kid.
Right.
However, the men that do stand up and the men that do show up are the ones that are tasked with that. And I know that we talk a lot about you being a coach and a mentor, and so you get positioned with that quite a bit. But what are your thoughts on like just the societal status of fatherhood?
Yeah, I think it is a lot of like what you mentioned about like they're just this like financial figure and they go to work and they pay all the bills and they keep the lights on, but then there's not a real sense of like mentorship in the home from the dad. And so I don't think that it's like something new. I think it's something that was like a small thing and it's kind of built and grown into this now monster. Like it's snowballed into this because like I don't know, maybe 40, 50 years ago, like that was the case. And it was because a lot of the jobs out there were like industrial or like blue collar jobs where like you have to put in a ton of time and like maybe dads just didn't see their kids that much.
Yeah.
Funny enough, there's like a Luke Combs, like, I don't know if you listen to the like Fathers and Sons albums or something like that. But there's a song a lot about this. And he talks about like being tired at the end of the day, but like still coming home and like throwing the football with the kids, like with his boots on and stuff like that. And like those little things matter. Like we talked, I think it was the first episode about like playing catch with your kids and like little stuff like that make a huge difference to that kid. And it may be like trivial to the dad in that moment, but that's when like those moments open themselves up and present themselves, is when you're doing those little things to you, big things to them.
Yeah, so. That's true. I completely agree with that statement. And we have to do better, I think, in that regard. Yeah, you're tired, you're sore, you're sick, whatever the case may be. But you have precious little time to engage and involve with your kids. You had your entire life up till kids, and you'll have the rest of your life once they move out.
Yeah.
So you have a very small window to be intentional. And I don't want you to miss that for dumb reasons, right? Some guys don't get that opportunity because they, you know, they went off to war, or they had to take a foreign job, like working overseas, or they take a job that's super dangerous, and they're on an oil tanker in the middle of the ocean doing, that kind of work. So we recognize that it's not an absolute humanity. There is no absolutes, but we have to also articulate the need to um, get off the couch, turn your Xbox off, and engage. I had a conversation last week with a different podcast host who runs like 5 shows out of his studio.
Mm-hmm.
And he made the comment about how, like, the ability to communicate is gone. And where are these kids going to learn? They're going to learn some of it from mom.
Right.
But then they're going to go to school, which is also a lady dominated industry. So where are they getting the other side of humanity? If they come home and you're home and you're sitting there playing, Xbox Live, then it's not from you. It's the guy down the street. It's the neighbor.
Right.
It's somebody else. And then to that same point, if my kids are constantly going to your house or vice versa, there's some trust that you're not telling my kids something that is outside of the scope of what I believe or what our family values are, and vice versa. So it's if your kid comes home and they're like saying wild things, like, where'd you hear that?
Yeah.
Why are you hanging out with them?
Yeah.
Well, I was okay. Well, this is on you. That's a reflection, a mirror in the reflection response.
Yeah. Exactly.
What else you got for the day?
Outside of the podcast, or
talk
about
anything? Anything?
No, I mean, I do think that actually brings up a really good point about, and we'll do another episode on like inner circles and like choosing your inner circle, or like who gets to be around you and your kid. Because I think both are important. I think you need to be really selective on not just who you spend, or not just who's with your kid, but like also who you're spending time with, because that has downstream effects too. I don't have much for the rest of the day.
Cool. Right on. Well, we have a baseball game tonight, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. It's game number 2, 3.
It's supposed to be game number 5, but the 3 of them have been canceled, so we're going into game number 2 tonight. So we'll see what happens. Cool, man. Well, I again encourage you to follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Dad Task Force. If you have a topic that you'd like to have discussed, you want to be a guest, or you know somebody to be a guest, there's a link in our bio on Instagram, the Google Doc that actually it's a quick questionnaire. It comes right to our inbox, and we reach out, and then we'll be able to make that happen. We record on Wednesdays, produce the episode, and it comes out the following Thursday. And if I can encourage you to tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family, whomever you might know, follow us, because the bigger this gets, the more dads we reach, the better we get as a society and a culture. So till next time.
Till next time.
All right. Later.